to this now. Breaking or breakdancing will debut as one at one of the biggest global sporting competitions this year. That's, of course, the Olympic Games in Paris, France in July and August. And if all goes according to plan, the country might just have a few representatives. Now, B-girl Courtnae Paul emerged victorious at the national championship at the Red Bull BC1 Sci-Fi in the women's category last week. And for being a national champion, she will represent the country at the Red Bull BC1 World Final in Brazil this year, and is also looking forward to qualify for the Olympic Games as well. She joins us in studio for a chat and sort of reflect, right, Courtnea, on what was an incredible performance last week. Good morning and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Right.
Last week was honestly, I just felt alive, man. I don't know how to explain it. It literally just felt like a culmination of all the hard work, sweat, tears, broken bones, and a good night at the office.
When you say broken bones, do you have any broken bones now?
Currently, no.
Okay.
2 years ago, broke my foot clean off a month before defending my title at the 2022 Red Bull BC1. Still got on the stage, competed with a broken foot, came second, was annoyed by it. Yeah, it's just been a journey, man. But there's something all the time. I had a sprained back a couple weeks ago. Yeah. It's part and parcel.
All right, let's talk about what happened last week. Obviously, national champion, now you're a two-time national champion. Talk to us about, you know, what it had to take for you to compete on that stage after what happened 2 years ago.
Sure. It's, like I said, it's been a journey, man. What I like about this thing, personally, my journey never stops. So, yes, there's different touch points in my year, but there's always something I'm working towards or working on, you know. So, losing the title or not being able to defend it meant that I had to start from scratch almost in terms of qualifying. So winning Joburg again, getting back to the final, I lost again, and then this year again, competing in Joburg. I remember the first year I qualified in Joburg, it was just me. I was the only female. This year we had 4. So, I mean, the growth rate is getting a lot better. We're moving slowly but surely. And yeah, this year I just wanted to go in. I felt really good, but I wanted to go in with no expectation. I think that really is the killer, and I go in with too much stress. I've been really busy between these qualifiers, training for them, different hats that I wear. So yeah, Saturday for me, I just wanted to go in and do my thing and just have a good time, you know.
Well, you had a good time. You won the title. But as you talk about the growth of the sport, and particularly women in breakdancing, is that a good space to be in at the moment as a woman? Because this is a sport that is obviously dominated by men.
I like to say that I'm not sure what spaces aren't male-dominated, to be honest. So it's nothing new. But I think it's a lot better to be in the space now than it was. When I initially moved to Joburg 10, 11 years ago, it really was a daunting thing. There was no platforms for me to go really experience. It was just guys around me all the time. And I think in a way, I won't say hindered, but maybe put me off the journey, because I was just like, nobody looks like me here. Nobody's going to understand my struggles or my mental things that I need to jump through, you know. So now there's platforms that exist. Red Bull BC1 has a B-girl category, apples to apples, you know. So I think the time has never been better. We've still got a long way to go, but I like to say that slow progress is, you know, better than none.
It's better than nothing. As you speak about having a long way to go in terms of just bringing the sport to the forefront, talk to us now about what happens. You're a national champion. I do understand that you will be traveling to Brazil later on this year. Is that where all the national champions from the respective countries come on board for the big final competition?
So I wish it was the end, like we just get there and it's the final. No, so you get there a couple days before. They do a last chance cipher where all the national winners essentially have one round to showcase. They take 16 people from there and you go into a last chance cipher top 16, like how we did on Saturday. I think only the top 4 from there goes to the actual main event. So there's still a couple touch points, but the level obviously changes drastically. The numbers change, the experience changes. You're suddenly battling people's reputations as well as their generational wealth of knowledge for this dance, you know. So it's a great experience, and that's the only way that we will really grow our level of dancers, being exposed to the international scene. Because we can do moves and whatever, but the dialect changes and the scene changes so much. And because we're not able to access that as often as they do, sometimes we're just a little bit out of touch. And there's only so much YouTube can do, you know. So for me, the international trips make a world of a difference.
You know, you obviously have competed abroad before. You've had obviously the distinction of being a national champion, winning all the titles there is to win in South Africa. I wonder though, when you travel overseas, Courtney, and you see the level of competition from your overseas counterparts, how far is South Africa when it comes to that level? How far are we?
I want to say that we're not the worst, which was always a surprise to me. I expected to go there and just get steamrolled, but that's not the case at all. I think we're in a healthy position. I think we're doing really well. Like I said, there's just a small gap that's missing in terms of like a dialect thing. But I don't think we're far off at all. For me to see, I mean, I've been committed to this journey now full-time for, I'd say, the last 3 to 4 years. It's the only time I could really start affording to do it. But I've made such an impact in the things that I've done, and that's the thing that showed me we have a lot of potential. When I first got in, I think in lockdown, Red Bull has a competition called E-Battle, where all the global people compete, and I came top 32. Yeah. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. It was a little validation to go, not as bad as I think I am, and I actually can fight for this thing. So I need to work a little harder to scrape into that top, 1% seeding, but I don't think we're far off at all.
Yeah. All right. So let's speak about the Olympics. Obviously, breaking is now the coolest sport at the Olympics, making its debut later on this year. We still have to qualify, though.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
Sure. So I spent the last 3.5-ish years trying to get into the OQS, Olympic Qualifier Series. Managed to do that. It's the last top 40 in the world who will fight for the last 10 slots in the Olympics. It is going to be a nightmare of a challenge. I don't underestimate it at all. Yeah. We've got to do Shanghai next month, Budapest shortly after. There should have been a third event, which they've taken away, which obviously then removes an additional opportunity for us to earn points and. But again, top 40, they knock you down to 32. They take you to top 16. You go round robin, top 8, top 3, and then obviously the final. I've kind of mapped out strategically where I want to land. In those positionings, it's going to be close to impossible to hit the top 16 just based on the level and the names that you're competing against. But I've got a plan in place that I'm hoping I can see through.
So when you say it's going to be very impossible for you to reach the top 16, are you then not putting yourself in that position to qualify? You're putting yourself out of this competition?
No, I'm realistic. Okay. I'm a big dreamer, but I'm also realistic. So I need to know what are the things I can focus on. So what they do is they take the top 7 from the top 16, and then there's 3 slots that go to wildcards, universality, these different things that come into play. So I need to understand where I fall into these conversations. Again, if people have been competing for the last 3.5 years with 4 qualifiers a year, and Africa has only had 1 in a 4-year cycle, I need to be realistic. You know, if you're showing up, you get 100 points, but I can't get to Europe every second week. You're going to score higher than me, even if I'm 10 times better than you. So we've had to really think a little bit smarter as to how we go about it, while still maintaining the level and the quality of what I'm trying to do here. So it could work, it might not. Either way, I'm swinging for the fence, man, you know.
We were speaking off air before we got on to, for this interview, and you spoke about how difficult it can be, how lonely it can be in terms of just having yourself having to fund your own trips to go abroad. You're not receiving any support from, the Dancing Association in South Africa. What role do they play in sort of helping B-girls and B-boys elevate them for some sort?
In terms of the current role, I'm not completely sure. I want to say that maybe it's a new thing for everybody and we're all figuring it out. I would love to have things running a little bit smoother, a little bit more transparent, and obviously a lot more support. If I look at international federations, those teams are traveling sometimes 10, 15, 20 plus, from coaches, physios, dietitians, everything. I've traveled to Japan beginning of last year by myself, you know, so it's a tricky one. When it comes to funding, it's just me pulling money out of my pocket, which is why we've got to wear different hats. Where overseas, they just get to train every day, and this is why I say we're competing against people who have access to different kind of facilities, people who understand systems, and yes, we have that, but that's those people's full-time jobs. Here, a lot of people are volunteering, so it's like you really have to be careful and tread lightly as to how much you can get out of a certain person, because you understand that they're doing you a favor sometimes, you know. In terms of the federation, I think maybe they'll step in a little bit more now. Last year I had to buy my own tracksuit, bought my own flag, bought my tickets, you know, so it's an interesting one. I've obviously got brands that I work with that are more than happy to support me, and I appreciate that so much. But a majority of this journey has been a lonely one. I'm training mostly by myself. The injuries, the rehab, everything comes out of pocket. But what can you do, man? You either sit at home and cry about it, or you just get it done, you know?
Just absolutely showing your passion, you know, for the sport. What I'm getting from that is that you have to do other things in the background to sort of help you to be put in a position where you can afford to sort of travel abroad. So someone is watching this conversation at home, and they're also thinking, you know what, I want to get into the space. Is there money in the space?
If you do it right, yes. Like I say, I'm a very sit back and be strategic about what I do kind of person. I'm not the guy that's going to say, quit your job today, start dancing tomorrow. Absolutely not. Like, this is not the US where you go to an audition and you blow up tomorrow. You have to find consistency. Yes, TikTok, yes, Instagram, great. But for me, it's really about the skill level. Are you going to put the time in? And be strategic about it. Most people work full-time jobs and train in the evening, and that's I mean, even our soccer teams, I know a lot of them that have to do that, and that's unfortunately the situation we're in. So for me, like a Red Bull example, where I've been working with them for too many years, in fact, where we've built a relationship over time, and we've figured out a system that works for us, and they support me really well. But that doesn't mean I wake up and I go, I want to be here today, and Red Bull says, no problem. No, it takes a lot more work, in fact, where I'm showing I'm worth my salt, and that I'm going to meet you further than halfway to get the job done. So there is money, you just need to be smart about it, and I think the challenge is changing the mindset about what a dancer is, what an athlete is. Yeah. Dancers are usually like the bottom of the barrel. We need a filler act, get the dancer. Yeah. You know, do the dancers have water? They don't need it. Put them in the, you know, they don't need a green room, let them sit with their bag. So that's a big thing for me. I'm trying to change the narrative, trying to change an industry, create a little bit of a new lane where we're part of big global deals, where if you look at the guys overseas, they sign car brands, they sign, it's like a normal day. Where here we're like, hey, come at those shoes, please, brother. Like, can you? So it's a journey, man. You can't get into it thinking overnight I'm going to be coining it, but it's definitely possible. I come from a small community called Red Hill in Durban. I came here with 600 rand in my pocket, you know, and to sit where I am today, it's possible, man. It really is.